Have you ever wondered why so many rural food businesses seem to fail, even when the opportunity looks massive? Well, today we're going to dig into a really powerful strategy that completely flips that script. It's all about turning what looks like a weakness into your greatest strength. Okay, so here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at the big challenge everyone's facing. Then, we'll uncover a really common trap that a lot of folks fall into. And after that, we get to the exciting stuff, a two-part solution that is a total game changer. All right, let's dive right in. What's the real problem here? What's the fundamental challenge that someone faces when they're trying to build a food business, out in a rural area? I mean, this is the million-dollar question, right? You see all this potential, but getting from that great idea to a successful business, man, it is just paved with roadblocks. So what is actually going on behind the scenes? So you can really see the disconnect right here. On paper, everything looks great. Huge market opportunity, right? But the on-the-ground reality is, well, it's brutal. You're dealing with tricky supply chains, you can't get funding, and just getting into the market is a major hurdle. There's this massive gap between the dream and the reality, and that's where so many of these promising businesses just fizzle out. Okay, to really get this, let's zoom in on a super common mistake. Honestly, it can be a fatal one. It's something we call the commodity trap. So the business strategist Tshego Mosiane tells this perfect story about her cousin. Her cousin gets a government grant, right? And the advice she gets is to set up a small juice factory for local catering and events. Sounds pretty solid on the surface, doesn't it? But here's the thing. There's a hidden flaw in this plan, and it pretty much guarantees failure. And this just lays it all out. When you're making something like orange juice, a basic commodity, you're not just competing with the guy down the street. No way. You are going head-to-head with global giants. Just look at the scale difference. They're pumping out massive quantities at a super, super low cost per unit. How on earth is a small local business supposed to compete with that on price? The short answer is, they can't. The private equity executive Riel Malan really hits the nail on the head here. He says this isn't even a fair fight. When we push small entrepreneurs into this commodity space, we're not helping them. We're pretty much setting them up to fail right from the get-go. So if competing on a commodity product is basically a losing battle, then what are you supposed to do? Well, the answer starts with the product. You've got to change the product itself. And that is your first big strategic advantage. So Riel Malan points out that successful manufacturers usually have one of three things going for them. Now, for a small rural business, being the best in the world, that's a tough one. But look at those other two options. Having a real point of difference and leveraging a regional advantage. That's where the opportunity is. That's the sweet spot. So here's the big takeaway. You have to stop playing their game. Stop competing on price. Start competing on what makes you unique. Instead of making the same orange juice everyone else is making, you've got to leverage what's special about your area. We're talking indigenous plants, traditional recipes, things nobody else has access to. And what that means is creating a niche product, something really specific. Like imagine a traditional cough medicine that uses a special plant root that only grows in your region. All of a sudden, you're not in that David versus Goliath fight anymore. You've got something that nobody else has. And that gives you control over your price. And man, it gives you an amazing story to tell. Okay, but a unique product, that's only half the puzzle, right? You still need money and a factory to actually make it and grow the business. And this is where the second piece of the strategy comes in. It's all about the business structure. And that's the power of the cooperative or co-op model. Just think about it. Instead of one person trying to scrape together enough cash to build a factory all by themselves, imagine a whole community of farmers or producers pooling their money and resources. They build it together. They share the costs, they share the risks, and hey, they share the profits. And listen, this is not some brand new, untested theory. This model is tried and true. It has a long history of success. I mean, look at post-World War II Europe. Farmers got together to create wine and cheese co-ops to rebuild everything. It's been used in South Africa to pull resources. And even more recently, in places like Limpopo, you've seen cooperative projects just totally revitalize the regional economy. So, think back to those huge hurdles we talked about at the start. Well, a co-op structure just smashes right through them. Suddenly, you can pull your capital to buy the equipment you need. You can share the infrastructure, build that factory together. And maybe most importantly, as a group, you finally have real bargaining power when you're buying supplies or selling your product. And you know what's really cool? Tshego Mosiane points out that the co-op structure itself becomes this incredible part of your story. It's a story about community, about working together, about shared success. And let's be real, consumers today absolutely love that. It makes you stand out. It's a massive differentiating factor. So let's bring it all home. You've got a unique product that only you can make, and you've got a cooperative structure to actually produce it. When you combine those two things, what you really get is a completely new mindset, a new recipe for success. So it really all boils down to these three key ideas. Number one, you don't have to go it alone. Build together through cooperatives. Number two, be unique. Use those indigenous resources to make something nobody else can copy. And number three, and this is probably the biggest mental shift of all, stop thinking of rural as a disadvantage. Start seeing it as your number one asset. And that right there is the final powerful idea. Being rural isn't a problem you need to overcome. It's the source of your superpower. It's where your unique products are born. It's the foundation for sustainable practices. And it gives you this authentic, powerful story that some giant faceless corporation, they could never, ever replicate that. They can't buy it. So it leaves us with this one big question to chew on. When you combine these unique local products with these collaborative, community-owned structures, are we actually looking at the future of sustainable food? Maybe, just maybe, the most powerful ingredient isn't what's in the bottle, but the community of people who came together to make it.